The graveyard shift, that's what they call it, and tonight, I'm starting to understand why. My name is Leo, and for the past 3 years, my world has been this sprawling, silent bus depot. Most nights, it's just me, the hum of the fluorescent lights, and the ghosts of the day's hustle and bustle. The last bus, number 42, pulls out at 11:45 p.m. sharp. After that, the gates are locked, and this place becomes my concrete kingdom until the sun comes up. Tonight started like any other. I did my first perimeter check, the familiar crunch of my boots on gravel, the only sound breaking the silence. I settled into my little guard booth, the bank of monitors in front of me showing empty platforms and silent, sleeping buses. I nursed a lukewarm coffee, flipping through a well-worn paperback. It was just after 2 a.m. when the first odd thing happened. A flicker on monitor 7, the one pointed at the main entrance gate. I leaned in, squinting, nothing. Probably just a moth drawn to the security light. But then, it happened again. This time, it wasn't a flicker. The distinct shape of headlights cut through the darkness, pulling up to the locked gate. My heart did a little drum solo against my ribs. No deliveries were scheduled. No maintenance crew, and definitely no buses. I grabbed my radio, my thumb hovering over the call button. Who in their right mind would be trying to get into a bus depot at 2:15 in the morning? The vehicle was a bus, an old model, not one of ours. It was sleek and black with no markings, no route number, nothing. It just sat there, its headlights like to piercing eyes, bathing my booth in a sterile white light. My radio remained silent. I should have called it in. I know I should have. But curiosity, that dangerous, nagging little voice, got the better of me. I watched, frozen, as the gate, my solid, reliable, locked gate, began to slide open on its own. The bus rolled in slowly, silently. It was unnerving. A vehicle that size should make some noise, the groan of the engine, the hiss of the air brakes. But this one glided over the asphalt like a phantom. It pulled up to platform 3, the one directly in front of my booth, and its doors side open. I still hadn't moved. My coffee was cold, my book forgotten. My eyes were glued to the monitor and to the reality unfolding just a few yards away. Then they started to get off, one by one. They were all dressed impeccably in dark, old-fashioned suits and dresses. They moved with a strange, synchronized grace, their faces pale and expressionless in the harsh depot lighting. They didn't speak, they didn't look at each other. They just disembarked and stood on the platform facing forward like statues waiting for a train that would never come. There were a dozen of them, maybe more. My blood ran cold. This wasn't right. This was a scene from a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I finally found my voice, or a shaky version of it. I grabbed the intercom microphone. This is a restricted area, I managed to say, my voice cracking. The depot is closed. You need to leave immediately. There was no response. They didn't even flinch. It was like I hadn't spoken at all. They just stood there, their blank eyes fixed on some point in the distance. The driver's seat of the black bus was empty. Panic began to set in, a cold, creeping vine wrapping around my chest. I reached for my phone to call the police, but the screen was dead. No signal. I tried the landline in the booth. A dead tone, a complete and utter silence that was more terrifying than any scream. I was cut off, alone with them. Then, one of them turned, a tall man in a dark overcoat. He turned his head slowly, mechanically, until his gaze locked directly onto my booth. Onto me. There was nothing behind his eyes. No life, no emotion, just a chilling, vacant emptiness. He took a single, deliberate step forward, then another. The others followed suit, turning in perfect unison and beginning their slow, silent march toward me. I scrambled back, knocking over my chair. My little glass box of a booth suddenly felt like a trap. They weren't rushing. They didn't need to. Their slow, inevitable advance was 1,000 times more terrifying. They moved as one, a silent army closing in. I fumbled with the lock on the booth's back door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely fit the key. The click of the lock turning was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. I burst out the back and ran. I didn't look back. I just ran, my heart pounding in my ears, my lungs burning. I sprinted across the empty bus lot, heading for the maintenance bay at the far end of the depot. It was my only hope. Heavy steel doors, tools, maybe another way out. Behind me, I could hear a sound now, not footsteps. Something worse. A soft, collective whisper, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, a chilling chorus that wasn't made of any words I knew. I reached the maintenance bay and slammed my shoulder against the heavy door, stumbling inside and fumbling for the lock. I threw the heavy deadbolt, my back pressed against the cold steel, listening. The whispering was closer now, right outside the door. I was trapped. The bay was huge and dark, filled with the hulking silhouettes of buses in various states of repair. The air was thick with the smell of grease and cold metal. I backed away from the door, deeper into the shadows. I needed a weapon. Anything? My eyes scanned the cavernous space. Then I saw it. A flicker of movement from inside one of the buses parked in the bay. One of our buses, number 17. The door was slightly ajar. My mind screamed at me not to go near it, but the whispering outside was getting louder, more insistent. Driven by a desperation I'd never known, I crept towards bus 17. Peeking through the window, I saw him. One of my co-workers, Dave from the day shift. He was sitting in the driver's seat. Dave. I hissed, relief flooding through me. Dave, thank God. We have to get out of here. He didn't turn. He was just sitting there, staring straight ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel. I pulled the door open and climbed aboard. Dave, did you hear me? I said, touching his shoulder. He turned his head toward me, slowly, just like the man on the platform. His eyes were the same, empty, vacant. A faint, unsettling smile played on his lips. And then I heard it, the whisper, but this time, it was coming from him. From Dave, my blood turned to ice. It wasn't just them outside. They were inside, too. They were in the buses. They were in my co-workers. I looked around the bay, my eyes adjusting to the dark. In the driver's seat of every single bus, I could now make out a figure. All of them sitting perfectly still, hands on the wheel. All of them wearing the familiar uniforms of my fellow guards and mechanics. All of them with the same empty eyes. The whisper grew, a symphony of dread echoing through the giant garage, coming from every direction, coming from the people I knew. The main bay door began to rumble, the heavy steel groaning as it started to slide upwards, letting in the pale, ethereal light from the yard. The figures from the black bus were standing there, waiting. I was surrounded. I stumbled backwards, falling into a passenger seat. There was nowhere left to run. Dave, or the thing that looked like Dave, turned its head back to the front, its hands tightening on the wheel. One by one, all around me, engines began to turn over. Not with a roar, but with a low, synchronized hum. The headlights of every bus in the depot flickered on, bathing the yard in a blinding, sterile glare. The depot was no longer silent, it was alive. A new shift had begun. And as the buses began to roll out of the bay, joining the silent, orderly procession, I realized the horrifying truth. This wasn't an invasion, it was a takeover. The graveyard shift had a new crew, and I was the only one left to clock out, forever.